What's going on, Pest Control Entrepreneurs? Welcome to another episode of the Pest Control Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Ingledue. And in today's episode, we're going to be diving into some marketing tactics besides the last episode that I just released that will hopefully help you out in the early stages of starting and growing a pest control company. I'm super excited about today's guest. So we're going to just jump right into it, and I'll introduce today's guest. Today, we've got Eric Bassett on the podcast. He's one of the co-owners of Nutura Pest. He's the co-host of the Bug Bux podcast, which has amazing content for anybody wanting to get into the pest control industry. So highly recommend going and checking out their content. He, and honestly, most importantly, Eric Bassett is one of my mentors and good friends. So without further ado, Eric, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, Jake, it's so awesome to be here, man. I've been working with you for a while. I know you were always going to be doing huge things, dude, and I'd love to see you grow with this podcast, helping people. I'm all about it, man.
Thanks, man. I'm super glad to have you on. First of all, we're just going to go right into it, man. Like, we're going to skip some of the introductions just because I want to provide as much value as fast as possible to our listeners. But before we do, let's tell people a little bit about like your role in Nutura, because obviously you're a co-owner, and you're co-owners with your sister and your brother-in-law. And I'd be just curious to know kind of that dynamic and who is what role and what role you provide. And then we'll go right into the marketing.
Yeah, so I see a lot of value in having a lot of experience in a lot of different areas in the business, but I prefer to specialize with marketing, leadership development, and like logistical system support. So I like to keep things organized. I like to make sure that things are going effectively and things are going smoothly. And then when it comes to developing leaders, I love delegation. I know you're big on that, and that's one of my key things too. And then when it comes to sales and marketing, that's my professional background, and I like to provide logistical support, tracking, marketing management. We have an actual marketing partner that we use. I'm the go-between when it comes to them and our company there, and then I provide the same consulting services for other PCOs in those same areas.
Awesome. I'd be curious to know, it kind of almost sounds like, Eric, I don't know if you guys in your company have defined this. What role does like your sister play, your brother-in-law play specifically, and you play? Because I'm a visionary, 100%. I'm a visionary, and I struggle with some of the analytical things sometimes and tracking and being organized. And hence why, you're mentoring me, and you've been fantastic because you are such, not that you can't have vision. I totally see that from you, but you are so, in my opinion, so good at being an integrator. I'm just curious to know is that kind of like a big role that you play within the company?
So when it comes to like the visionary / integrator type, we don't rely too much on defining those particular roles, but I would say that I am mostly an integrator type. My business partner, Jake, who's also my brother-in-law, he's big on the visionary side of things. He throws out a lot of ideas, likes to dream. It's got all these things like, this is the big impact we can make on the community and the business, and this is what we could do. And then me and my sister, who is his wife, are big on the integration strategy side of things. So we usually come back and say, hey, those are great ideas. We'd love to make them happen for you. This is what we would need in order for that to happen, right? I'll come up with a game plan, and we'll talk about it and talk it through. And we do follow that naturally in our business, but we don't necessarily focus on the key roles. There's a process that I follow that is similar to that, which has to do with 4 different types instead of just 2. One is a visionary. The next one's a strategist. Then you have operators and evaluators. And, I'm big on evaluation and strategy. And my brother-in-law is big on vision. And then my sister's really big on strategy. She's also kind of our CFO. And as you can imagine, lots of CFOs are probably strategists. They're big on planning. So we've all kind of been lucky enough to naturally fit within these roles. You probably hear a lot of people talk about the risks of working with family. And for us, we had to work really hard to make sure that we were both professionally and personally comfortable with all those aspects. It did take some extra work, but I feel like we work really well together.
Yeah, you guys seem, at least from social media and on the outside, right, not being able to be in, you guys just seem you guys have such a awesome team, awesome dynamic, and an amazing culture, because just some of the stuff that you guys are doing, you guys just seem like you have fun together as a team, which I love to see that. Which maybe we'll have to get you on in the future and talk about some cultural things,
Mhm.
because I think you guys, and maybe even have your sister and your brother-in-law on, because uh, I think culture is huge, and we've talked about culture before in the past. But I want to specifically get it, just start diving right into right away some simple marketing tactics people can start doing today to help grow their pest control businesses. Now, I just released an episode that just came out, episode 6, and we talk about guerrilla warfare marketing, like
Mhm.
like targeting a specific neighborhood. We'll call it 1,000 houses, and putting up door hangers and sending direct mailers and knocking the doors, giving business cards, and just kind of pounding the payment to get your client base going, doing yard signs, getting Google reviews, and so on and so forth. What would be some advice that you would give business owners starting out of tactics for marketing? And then we'll talk about like tracking some of that.
So I think the big thing that I always tell people to start out with is to get your Google My Business profile squared away. Get that done. When in the marketing world, we talk about attribution when it comes to campaigns, and attribution is just fancy speak for which campaign is actually gets the credit for making that customer call in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people will talk about their trucks. Like I put my logo and my number on my truck. I've got a social media campaign. I've got direct mailers, door hangers, flyers, whatever the thing is, right? And you get these customers that will call in. And if you ask them, hey, how did you hear about us? They'll say, oh, I just looked you up on Google, right? And so you realize pretty quickly that all of your campaigns are actually at the mercy of the way that the customer actually makes a decision to contact you, which is 90% of the time, I'm gonna Google it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to pay attention to the number on the flyer, the number on the truck, anything else. Usually, it ends up coming through Google. So if you want to make sure that that customer can get a hold of you regardless of the campaign, make sure your Google My Business profile is up and it's running and it's completed. Google makes it pretty easy to show you like if there's missing parts of your profile, right? They'll
Mm-hmm.
say like, hey, complete this part of the profile, because they want you to be represented in the way that you want your business to be represented to customers and consumers, right? So that would be kind of my first step. Number one, Google My Business profile. That is a must.
I love that advice. And actually, it's something that I did at the very beginning, because I didn't do some of this guerrilla warfare marketing. I didn't do door to door sales. I literally went with word of mouth, my inner circle, Facebook,
Mhm.
and getting Google reviews and focusing on my Google My Business account. And I completed my Google My Business account. Now, granted, I think there's lots of room for improvement on there, but I want to talk about that just for a minute, because I think Google My Business is a little bit underrated sometimes by business owners, because I don't think they understand that sometimes like SEO can play a huge part with Google My Business if you're
Mhm.
doing frequent posts, just like you're doing a blog. So
Yep.
that they should be putting posts on Google My Business as well as doing blogs and stuff. And of course, if they're just starting out, like I try to say, keep it simple, stupid, right? So just do the
Mhm.
guerrilla warfare marketing, do the Google My Business account, and get the Google reviews. But as you continue to grow, I think that Google My Business plays such a huge part if you start adding blog posts and pictures and different things
Yes.
on that frequently.
Yeah, 100%. And there are simpler ways to get customers. One of the other things I was going to say is, if you have connections in your area, like if you've got connections, friends and family members and other people, if you have a Facebook, any kind of social media, like be active on it. Be active about your new business endeavors. Be active about looking for new customers. Put that information out there so that people can come to you and contact you. That's free
Mm-hmm.
99 for you to just go out to your friends and family and say, hey, I've got a new pest control company. We would love to have your support. It's locally owned and operated, and all of those things. That way people can connect with you, and you don't have to pay for those leads, which would be phenomenal. The other thing I was going to say is a Google My Business profile really does need to connect to a website.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be the first thing you do. Building a website doesn't have to be number one. You don't have to have a website to get customers. You don't have to have a website to service accounts or anything like that. But eventually, how well other campaigns and how well your Google My Business profile performs does have to do with having a website. And Google loves to pick whatever's relevant to search queries. So when a customer goes on Google and says pest control near me, they're going to rely on what is the most relevant, which has to do with location. It also has to do with based on what they're searching on for, ant control, beetle control, box elder bug, wasps, etc. And that has to do with those blog posts that you were talking about. So
Mm-hmm.
there are a few different things that go into how well a website performs in SEO. We don't have to dive into some of that specific stuff, but long story short is if you're going to have a GMB profile, it's a really good idea to start working on a website. And I would also recommend probably have a professional do it unless you have some web design background. You will save yourself a lot of time and energy and possibly some headaches having a professional take care of that.
I 100% agree with that. In fact, I'm one of those people, and like I said, I just released a video about talking about guerrilla warfare marketing and doing the door
Mm-hmm.
hangers and all that stuff, and door-to-door sales and yada, yada, yada. I didn't really do that. I focused on my inner circle. Like I said, I focused on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. I focused on my Google My Business account. And then anytime I got customers, I focused heavy on, hey, like and share my business Facebook page on your personal Facebook page and leave me a Google
Mm-hmm.
review. And that is really what skyrocketed. That simple marketing is what skyrocketed me. And I shouldn't say skyrocketed me, but for my area, like I'm online presence, I'm kind of one of the big dogs, even though I'm a small company.
Yes. Yeah. And you mentioned something that's big on my list, which is reviews. Reviews help for a lot of reasons. Google likes reviews. Google likes good reviews and they like recent reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're continuing to get, 4 and 5 star reviews, that's a great thing. Also, just the whole psychology of reviews. It's called social proofing. And it allows people to make decisions vicariously through previous buyers of the same product or service. So I mean, heck, I use Amazon all the time. I buy things off Amazon every single day. And I look at the reviews. It's the first thing I look at,
Mm-hmm.
right? And, the more reviews you have, the better your rating is, the better that you're going to perform. So, and it's another one of those things that's actually pretty easy to do. You have a customer, you're servicing, you're having a conversation, and you say, hey, have you had a chance to give us a Google review yet? The customer says, oh, no, I haven't. You say, well, hey, let me show you how to do it. And then you actually walk them through the process. That's a big thing that people forget. You need to walk them through the process because as soon as they shut the door, they are going to forget. If you just tell them to leave a review, I promise it's not going to happen. So we actually put QR codes for our Google My Business review on the back side of the badge for our technicians. So they have their picture, company, license information on the back side. They have a QR code. Customers scan it, and then that technician walks them through the process of actually doing the review.
I love that. We're actually planning on implementing that. It's just not a priority right now because my guys are pretty good at asking for the reviews, but I love that you're
Good.
doing that. I'd be curious to know what you think about this. So I tell people when they're first starting out to get all your friends and family to leave you a 5-star Google review on your Google My
Mm-hmm.
Business account, but do it because I'm a big fan of like integrity. So do it in a
Mm-hmm.
way where they're talking about your character as a person, not that as if they use the service, unless they actually have. And it seems to work pretty well because that's what I did at the beginning. I just hit up all my friends, say, hey, would you guys leave me a Google review and talk about my character and me as a person? And then like that helps start getting you traction. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that could be a really good idea. And especially you mentioned the integrity side of things.
Mm-hmm.
That person's talking about you as a person and how much they trust you to run a business, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily that they enjoy the service because they haven't used it yet, right?
Yeah.
They could even be as honest as saying, hey, I love Jake. He runs a fantastic operation, right? As soon as I'm ready to get a pest control company, this is the guy I'm calling.
Yeah.
Right? That's as honest can be. The other thing too is that Google prefers obviously that people use the actual product or service that is being reviewed.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
they don't require it. So like for good and bad, right? So for example, if you have a technician who cuts off somebody in traffic, that person can leave a bad review, right? And that review could stick. You might be able to dispute it, but even if that customer doesn't actually use your service, that review might be there because it's how that customer experienced your company, whether or not they use your service. So yeah, you can absolutely have people do that. I think that's a great idea. And, even if you offer, like if I offer friends and family and I said, hey, listen, I would love to give you a friends and family rate on our service. In return, if you would give me an honest review about how I treated you and how we represented ourselves, I would be so grateful. Right?
Yeah.
I think that could be an awesome opportunity for people.
I want to backtrack a little bit because you're talking about how walking through the customer to get the Google review.
Hmm.
I've had trainings with my technicians before where we've talked about like, hey, how come you didn't get the Google review? He's like, well, I asked and she said yes, but never did it. I'm like, no, dude. What you got to do is like, as soon as you ask, you say, like, I literally taught him. I'd be like, because they have their iPad or their phone or whatever that has to
Yep.
collect payment. Be like, perfect. If you'll run and grab your phone, I'll just get this set up for payment, and then I'll walk you through it. And so they make them go get the phone, and they come through and they
Yep.
walk them through it, literally do it. But of course, it's easier if you have the QR code on the badge and just scan and go. But it's so funny. A lot of times they ask for it, but they don't like make it happen. It's like technicians sometimes are afraid to just be like, yeah, perfect. Run and go grab your phone, and I'll walk you right through it. That's it. That's all you have to say, and then you get
Yep.
the Google review.
Yeah, and it's funny because you and I both come from a door-to-door background originally, and so we're really used to following a process and just going through that process and trusting it, and knowing that if you say the right things in the right way, use the right gestures, that people will just follow instructions. It's really, really simple, and it's not overwhelming. And sometimes technicians that aren't really coming from like a door-to-door background or don't have that sales experience, they're a little timid. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I don't want to come off the wrong way. I don't want to say something that I'm not supposed to say. And it's like, man, you just got to relax and know that if you present yourself in the right way and you smile and you're honest and you just say, hey, yeah, have you ever had a chance to give us a Google review? Oh, you haven't? Well, here, let me show you how to do it. Do you have your phone?
Yeah.
The customer's like, oh, I don't. And you're like, hey, that's not a problem. Go ahead, go grab your phone. I'm going to finish up on this invoice and then I'll show you how to do it in just a minute.
Yeah.
Right? The customer's going to turn around, go get their phone, and they're going to come right back.
Yeah.
Right? And it's almost like magic, but you have to follow the process and you have to trust in that process,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't follow those steps, then obviously it's only as good as if you follow through with it.
And what's crazy too is if you follow the process, a lot of times, like, because I know even I have in the past have incentivized my customers to leave us a Google review, like, oh, we'll take $5
Mm-hmm.
off today if you, which is a great tactic. But honestly, if you just show up and do your job good and
Mm-hmm.
get them to like you, by you at the end, if you're just following that process, a lot of times we're going to leave you the Google 5-star Google review without you having to lose the $5 or whatever you decide on.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that I think is cool to do is, when you finish up with the service and you knock on the customer's door and you let them know what happened. Hey, this is where I treated. This is what I treated for. Here's what I noticed. Right. Here are
Mm-hmm.
some recommendations between now and your next service. And then I like to say, is there anything else you'd like me to take care for you today? If they say, no, you did great. Say, what else can I do to ensure that I provided you a 5-star service on your
Yeah.
treatment today? And if they say nothing, you've been phenomenal. I say, perfect. Have you had a chance to give us a review yet? Right. And I'm priming that customer
Yeah.
to provide feedback in the form of a review.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of things you can even do ahead of time, even before you get to that point with a customer,
You're
that
going
will
exactly where I
help
wanted you to
them.
go. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
going exactly where I wanted you to go. So perfect. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, I think priming customers and getting them ready for scenarios that would otherwise people might think are a little bit awkward or intimidating is one of the easiest ways to make it so simple, right? The more that you can prime that customer for that situation with what you say, how you say it, gestures, other things, the easier it's going to be.
Yeah. I'm curious to know if you have a system in place, because we do this now, and I think I probably honestly got it from you, Eric, from some of our mentoring sessions. Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm probably just stealing your information and regurgitating
Uh-huh.
it out. But what we do a lot of times when people are not home, so, and I know there's better methods of doing this, and I've heard of other, even on the Bug
Hmm.
Bux podcast, people talking about methods that they do that are even better than this. But I just trying to keep it simple for people starting out. We do door hangers. Like if they're not home, we put a door hanger on and check off these boxes of everything we've done, and
Hmm.
say, hey, thank you. Or if there was anything else we found, like, oh, we also found an anthill, then we take a picture of the door hanger and we send it to the customer, and then we also leave them a link for a 5-star review. So even when they're
Nice.
not there, hopefully we're still getting the opportunity to get the 5-star review.
Yeah, 100%. And, for us, our process, so whenever we're heading to a customer's house, we'll call them ahead of time, say, hey, this is Eric with Nutura Pest Control. I'm going to be your service technician today. Just want to let you know I'm about 5-10 minutes away, and I plan on knocking on the door when I get there. See you soon. Right? Hang up the phone. It's easy.
Yeah.
Get to the house, knock on the door. If they don't answer, that's okay. I'll get right to work. Right? I'll take care of everything. And then at the end of that service, We actually email, we're paperless. So we email those invoices. And before we send the invoice, I have all of my service notes, kind of in that little note section. And some of that stuff can be copied and pasted just for efficiency. But the key specifics have to be written out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like key things about what you noticed, where you noticed it, instructions, like I said before, between now and your next service, right? Hey, here's what would help our service work the best if you can do this part of it, right? Conducive conditions for pest activity. And then we'll send that invoice. And then depending on how the communication preferences, sometimes I'll just call them and say, hey, this is Eric from Nutura Pest Control. Just want to follow up. Just finished your service. I went ahead and emailed you a copy of your invoice that has all the details. We'd love to have a 5-star review from you if you feel like we provided that level of service. I went ahead and sent you a link to that as well. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact our office. Thank you so much again for being a customer. Have a wonderful day. Click, right?
Gosh, I hope people just like literally just write down your scripts that you literally just told us and use them.
Yeah.
Super
yeah.
good.
It's one of those things that like when you've done it so many times, that it just kind of comes out naturally, right? And I was doing a training session earlier with an office manager of another pest control company. I'm getting them up to speed on kind of the whole sales process. It's new for them. And I think you and I have talked about this before, and this is something I might even be stealing from you. But we were talking about her pitch, and I said, the first thing that you do when it comes to scripts is that you want to memorize what to say, right? That ensures that you say exactly what you want to, how you want to say it, using the right tonality, everything else, right? After you memorize that, you're going to internalize it. You're going to want to make it so much a part of you that the energy that you need to have in order to bring it out when you need to is so small, right? It's so seamless. It's so easy. And then the last thing you do is you personalize it, right? You make it fit your personality, your style, so that when you're talking to people, it's genuine, it's authentic, right? Mm-hmm. So memorize, internalize, and personalize is what I like to follow when it comes to that stuff. So, the way that I approach customers is really similar to all my technicians because we've taught them all a similar process. But the best guys do it in just a little different way because they followed that process, and it follows their personality, their vibe, their style, and those customers enjoy them for the same reasons that they enjoy that pitch. It's part of them, and they can connect with them.
Yeah, I want to go back to. I'm just out of curiosity. Do you think, because you were talking about because I told you we put the door hangers on if they're not home, and of course we have a CRM just like you guys do, and like most everybody does that automates a lot of that stuff. Like you said, you're paperless. Do you think that it is an issue because we're getting so efficient that we're so fast at getting stuff done anymore because of some of the efficiencies that. Do you ever get problems where people are like, oh, you weren't here long enough? So like, for example, I guess I don't know why I'm bringing that up. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the reason why we do the door hangers, even though we're like paperless too, is just another thing to say we were actually here, just to like show presence. What's your thoughts on that?
So I used to run into the same issue. So a pest control company I worked for before I was an owner it was Gemtech Pest Control in Boise, Idaho. And I remember this is when I was just a customer service rep and I was routing, and I had this one technician. His name was Evan. Shout out to Evan if he's ever listening to this. But Evan was like blazing fast, like so much so to the point where like it was concerning. Like I would like sit down with him and say, Evan, like you got to spend more than 10 minutes. At a service, like you're going so quick, like I'm worried about the efficiency. And this guy was like hustling, like he was going, like he was moving. He did not waste any time. And he was like done by 2 p.m. every single day. Right. And what was so weird is that we started getting 5-star reviews from Evan's customers, like lots of 5-star reviews, and like customers who I'd be like, hey, Evan will be out there tomorrow. And they're like, oh my gosh, I love Evan. He's so great. And so I sat down with him and I said, dude, how do you do it? How do you be so efficient and so quick and still get these customers to love you? And he said, honestly, like I go there, I knock on the door, and I spend the first 5 minutes just talking to them, just asking them about their day, asking about their family, asking about their pest issues, giving them some compliments on their yard, connecting with them. Right.
Yep.
And then I tell them, I preface it and I say, hey, listen, I know you probably want me to get this done as quick as I can. I'll be in and out of your hair. I'm going to make sure that I focus on these key things. Right. And, it was either I'm going to make sure I focus on, sweeping the eaves, granulating the lawns and flower beds. He specifically says exactly what he's going to do. And he talks about how efficient he's going to be. Right.
Uh-huh.
And then at the end of the service, he knocks on the door. He says, "Hey, I want to let you know I took care of all those things we talked about. Everything went well. Is there anything else that you need from me today?" And they're like, "Nope, dude, you were great." Right.
That's awesome.
But the key thing is that he made it so tangible to the customer, right? And whether you talk to the customer in person or whether the phone message that you leave, I think phone messages are really great because customers can connect with that, the tonality and everything. Even text messages, the more personalized you make that, the more tangible it is to their house. You mentioned something specific about their yard, their house, their driveway, their flower beds, anything specific, that becomes much more tangible. And then when the customer hears that, they don't care how long you were there for, right? As long as they know that you actually focused on their key issues. It's like if I go get my oil changed, and it takes 10, 15 minutes, if the guy comes back to me, no, I'm fine.
You're
I'm like,
happier if it
this
takes
is
less
great.
time.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I'm like, efficiency is awesome. And if that guy tells me, "Hey, like I noticed these key things about your vehicle, this is what I would recommend. I've seen vehicles just like this that have this type of issue. So I'll make sure you keep an eye on this." And we talk about my car, my vehicle for a few minutes, dude, it could take 5 minutes to do an oil change and I would be thrilled. Right. So if a guy takes 30 minutes and him and I don't talk at all, right, then, inversely, I'm actually kind of concerned. I'm like, maybe this guy was just dragging his feet. Like, did he really take care of what I want him to,
Yeah.
So the personalized aspect of it, I think, makes the biggest difference no matter how long you take.
I know we're kind of going off onto like more of like a customer experience route here, away from marketing, but it also plays into some of the marketing though, because like a lot of times people aren't really buying pest control. Yeah, they want the result of like getting rid of the bugs, but they want the experience. And if you can create a great experience, which to me, an experience is almost the lead measure, like, and customer service is the lag measure, if that makes sense, because customer service in my mind is like you're handling the problems, like they're calling, right? That's customer service. Whereas like customer experience is more like, it's more of a lead, like a lead measure. I don't know if does that make sense?
No.
So,
yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense.
So, I tell my guys all the time, and I probably got this from like the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But anytime you show up to a house, say their name multiple times, call them by name multiple times. And if you're in the house treating or something, like just like you said your guy was doing, like find something that you can pull from their house and talk about. For example, I remember when I was out spraying, if I saw a deer mount hanging up there with the antlers and stuff, I'd be like, "Oh, did you get that? Oh, you hunt? Oh, cool." And like just start having this. Next thing you know, I created a raving fan because and loyalty because I connected with them on a personal level. So now like technicians, dude, are so crucial to the business because if they can make a personal connection, like most of the time they love their technician more than they do the company because they're if that makes sense. So it's so important to learn to get people to like you quickly.
Yes. Yeah. And, we've talked to our technicians all the time. We'll talk about value, like being a valuable company or offering a valuable service. And I've always taught my guys that there is a very big difference between value and cost, right? Value is what it's worth to somebody and cost is just a number on the piece of paper. And if you want to further define value, I really truly believe that value is just a combination of personalization and relevancy, right? So if I go to someone's house and I'm saying their name, right, and I'm showing respect and I'm talking about the key things that I'm doing to actually benefit their particular home, right? Not just every home, but their particular home. I'm showing them that I'm personalizing the service to them. What I'm doing is absolutely relevant to the money that they spend on the service that I provide. That's what really builds value. And then from a marketing aspect, I love asking people, especially after we close, like on an inbound lead or just on a door sale or whatever it is, we'll talk about the service. They seem excited, right? And I'll say, "Hey, who else do you know that would love to get a great deal on a pest control service just like yours?" And then just wait, see what they say. Because you'd be surprised. Sometimes they get, my dad actually has a pest control service, but it's a different company. And I know that he would love having a local guy. And you're like, "Well, hey, I'd love to talk to him. Would you mind if I contacted him?" And you just see where that goes, right? Asking existing customers, asking leads that just close, for referrals is kind of my next step from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
If you have a really good relationship and you're able to do all these things, these like quality lead measures that we talked about, then you can leverage that to create new marketing opportunities for you in the form of referrals.
I love that. So I know we're getting close on time here, but I want to transition right back to some marketing tactics
Mhm.
besides obviously door hangers and door-to-door sales and direct mailers and stuff, and a Google My Business account, and probably creating a website. What would be
Mhm.
some at the starting stages? Or is there some other marketing tactics that you would recommend for somebody that's just starting out, or would you kind of just stick to those basics?
Some of the stuff you talked about are really great. Like the guerrilla tactics, we're talking flyers, we're talking door hangers. You can just go out. Those are all things that you have direct control over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all you got to do is put in effort and you can get a return on that. The other things, as far as visibility, we talked about Google My Business, but that's kind of a reactive thing. People have to be looking for pest control to see you. The proactive approaches are going to be social media, right? Like get on social media, get on as many social media platforms as possible and build your brand and express kind of what you're going for, your vision, your mission. You want to be the most valuable pest control service in the area. You want to be the safest pest control service in the community. Whatever your vision is, communicate it to people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because sometimes people don't always connect with the need of pest control, but people can connect with your vision and your mission statement, regardless of what their current needs are. And
Mm-hmm.
then they can actually get on board with that, right? They might think, that guy's awesome. That guy really does kind of encapsulate the type of person that I would want to buy something from. And you know what? I don't like doing pest control. I don't like doing my own pest control anymore. I'm just going to buy that, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to call that guy.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I think is really important is, share your vision, share your mission, share your brand on as many different platforms as possible. And anytime you talk to somebody, whether it's somebody that you know or somebody that you just introduce yourself to, carry some cards and pass them out.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, yeah, like I'd say, hey, my name's Eric. I own a local company here in the area. It's called Nutura Pest Control. If you ever need a need for pest control service, give me a call. I'd love to show you the difference between my company and any other company you might use in the area. Anything that you're going to do, any kind of elevator pitch,
I,
every opportunity with somebody you have is a good opportunity for the business.
I love that. And I think too, this is something I wish I would have done more at the beginning that I'm now like, oh, I need to start doing this. And I already see guys in the industry doing it and they're killing it because they're doing this, is being so active on social media as far as
Mm-hmm.
even when they're day to day out in the like turf badger. Anyways, he's on TikTok. He owns a lawn mowing
Mm-hmm.
company and a pest control company. His name's Jonas. He's a super cool guy, but he's got TikTok videos that multiple of them that have over 1 million views.
Yeah.
And some of them were so simple. It was literally just showing the bait stations for mice on the outdoor base, the outside base stations, the black boxes,
Mm-hmm.
and what they were, and talking about that has over 1 million views. I'm just
Oh
like,
man, yes.
and it's just simple stuff like that because it creates it. In today's world, being on social media is a way to create validity and trust with
Mm-hmm.
everybody, because if you're not on social media, it's almost like they can't trust you. So if you're
Yeah.
doing those things and being present, they're going to trust you more. And then if you become the educator or the expert in that area, even if you're showing the do-it-yourselfers how to do stuff themselves, a lot of times they're still going to go with you because you're the expert and they're like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. I'll just hire him.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And the more that people are exposed to you and your brand and the more avenues that they get that exposure from, the more validity you end up gaining in your industry.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to have the highest rating on Google, or you don't have to have the best location on the map pack or anything else. Like you can leverage yourself in all these other different avenues. And you don't even have to run paid campaigns to do that. In fact, sometimes organic campaigns perform better than paid campaigns. Like I don't know if you've ever been scrolling and like you'll see something and you'll see a video and you'll see that it's like sponsored.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, of course, yeah, they're saying that because they paid for this ad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus like just going through a normal scroll and you see that somebody has a profile and they have a video and it is saying the same thing, but because it's actually not a paid ad, like it actually seems more genuine. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's so crazy, like,
Yes.
so there's just lots of opportunities where, you can provide that visibility, which is
Mm-hmm.
different. And then, of course, networking with other businesses. Here's another thing. Like if you get leads, or if you get customers who call in and they ask for a service that you don't provide, like find the company that provides the best version of that service, contact that company and say, hey, I get leads every now and again for this type of service. You
Mm-hmm.
seem somebody who's really reputable. I would love to send these leads to you. Do you guys ever get leads for pest control services? And if they say yes, say, hey, how about we exchange leads?
Yeah.
Right? I would love to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And now you've got other companies that are as lead sources for you,
Mm-hmm. And
right?
that's a good
So,
point. Networking and getting in with local business owners, because almost every little town has like some kind of business meetup where you can get together with real estate
mhm.
agents, bankers, and all this different stuff, and pass around business cards, and they'll refer you, you refer them, yada yada yada. You can get business that way. I've gotten business that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and obviously there's the paid true BNI groups that you can become a part of. But even if you don't want to do that, just think, like we'll do an inspection on a customer's house where they have to get like wood and other things replaced, and so we'll contact a contractor on their behalf and just say, hey, this is what's going on, and then I'll use that introduction to kind of segue and say, hey, how often do you come across situations where you're working on someone's house where they have a pest issue? And
Mm-hmm.
he says, oh, every now and again. Perfect. I would love to recommend you to my customers if you would be willing to do the same to yours. And if he says yes, then great. And every type of service that has anything to do, like can be just 1 degree different than pest control, can be a referral for you. So
Yep.
lawn care, contractors, window washers, insulation specialists, maids. Maids would be
Mm-hmm.
an awesome one, honestly. Maids
Yeah.
don't like bugs, and they will notice bugs all the time.
And they'll let them know.
They will. They will.
Yeah.
So, all those connections are free. And, I mean, they can be free. You can obviously provide some kind of, finder's fee, referral fee, but, just different opportunities that are low cost.
For sure, for sure. So let's in closing, I'm gonna ask one
Mhm.
last question. How
Sure.
would you recommend somebody just starting out to track some of those leads? Because it's great that you have the flyers out and yeah, you got customers in, but like, let's talk about that a little bit. Because that's
So
what you,
you,
in fact,
yeah,
listeners, that's what Eric helps me out with.
yep. So, tracking is something that I'm really passionate about because whenever somebody asks me how something's performing, I don't like to use my gut instinct. I hate that
Hmm. Yeah.
because it changes from time to time. So, I like to track all these. Google Sheets and Excel is your friend. I know sometimes that can be a little overwhelming. If you don't have a whole lot of experience with that, think about hiring a professional to kind of make a tracking sheet for you. But being able to track the lead volume by day, so it doesn't necessarily matter by time. You could do that, but it's a little bit dicey.
Hmm.
But track what leads come in on which days. Track the source of the lead. And it pays out to ask the customer, "Hey, how did you hear about us?" Or what led you to calling in today? So track that source. Track the service area that the lead came in from. Right. And obviously, you want to track things like whether you closed it or not, what the contract value is, if it was a one-time treatment, if it was the value of the one-time treatment, value of the contract. You want to be able to track all that data so that once you kind of get rolling with some volume, you can see how things are going over time, right? That's important.
Hmm.
But more than anything else, you just want to be able to see which campaigns are the most viable for you, which
Hmm.
things are actually getting good ROI on return on investment. So, obviously organic's going to get you the best, and paid is going to cost you a little bit more, but you won't know the difference unless you
Until you
track it.
track it. Yeah.
So,
Which is a problem I had. And since you've been on, it's been great because we've seen, we actually got data now so we can do
mhm.
projections and different things.
Yeah, exactly. And, we get the question a lot where someone says, hey, I want to get into digital marketing. How much should I budget, or how many people should I staff, or, all these kind of projection based questions. And all of those come down to lead volume.
Hmm.
And if I don't know how many leads you brought in the last year, I have no idea where to start with, what we can expect the next year, right?
Yeah.
So tracking all that lead volume now will just work wonders for you when it comes to projecting staffing, projecting budgets, and projecting revenue and growth in subsequent years.
Awesome. Eric, thanks for so much for coming on, dude. Like, I don't. Hopefully people realize from the Bug Bux podcast, like you bring so much value to the industry, in my opinion. I just think the way your mind works as far as organization, tracking these leads, understanding marketing, and just your leadership skills, they're just, they're amazing. I envy you. I'm grateful to know you and to have you as a mentor for sure, man.
Well, thanks, Jake, man. I appreciate that so much, dude. And I love that you've got this podcast. I love the value that you're bringing to everybody. Your honesty and authenticity and drive, dude. It's awesome, man. So I'm super fortunate to be connected with you, and I'm really grateful that I was on the podcast today.
Thanks, man. Where can people find out more about you or reach out to you if they have any questions or concerns or whatever?
I'm on Facebook. I do a lot of stuff on Facebook. That's where the Bug Bux Facebook group is. So I do a lot of pest control communication on there. You can look me up through the big Bug Bux Facebook group or just on Facebook, Eric Bassett. You can hit me up on Instagram. My handle is I am Eric Bassett. And then, anybody's welcome to call me 208-571-4798. Just shoot me a text, shoot me a call, and let me know that you heard my information from Jake's podcast, the Pest Control Entrepreneur podcast, and I'll be happy to help you.
Awesome. Thanks again for coming on, dude. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.